Good day everyone, I am Paul Benson T. Villaflor from Group 4 and I am here today to discuss about SOAP web services. For the introduction to web services, web services is a service that's made available over the network and its access with the network. It is also a service that's made available with the web. Web services is divided into two categories. The older one is SOAP with a specification of JAX WS and REST with a specification of JAX RS. For today, we would be focusing on the SOAP, which is an older version when compared to REST, which is a newer version. SOAP, which means Simple Object Access Protocol, is an XML specification for sending messages over network. SOAP messages are independent of any operating system and use a variety of communication protocols including HTTP and SMTP. SOAP is XML heavy, hence best used with tools/frameworks. JAX WS is a framework that simplifies using SOAP. It is part of a standard Java. Can we say that the web service is like an online platform where people use social media sites? Well, I can say that web service is different from the social media platforms, though it enables us to access other networks. Web services is mainly for codes, and it is a way for them to communicate with each other with other app servers. I have here a image. Let's see, app server 1 and app server 2. These two app servers have different applications and different methods. If app server 2 would want to use a method from application A, which is in another app server, the method in application A should be configured as a web services for the application B in app server 2 to use its functionality. Web service allows two different machines to communicate with each other. Even though app server 1 with application A uses, let's say, Java for its language and application B from app server 2 uses .NET, they can still communicate with each other because of interoperability. Through the use of web services technology, these two app servers can communicate each other and use the functionality of each other even though they are separate and have different codes and languages used to perform their functionalities. Now, let's go to our next reporter and he will talk about the web services jargons.
Web Services Jargon. Ang una sa Web Services Jargon natin is ang WSDL or Web Service Description Language or binibigkas ng iba ay WSDL. So, ang WSDL is a XML format that can be understood by any technology in describing the functionality offered by a web services. So, ang maganda example nito is ang web service kunyari is in Java format. So, para ma-send niya to, para makapag-send siya ng methods or arguments papunta sa client is through WSDL. So, ang ginagawa ng WSDL is parang gumagawa siya ng format na maintindihan ng kahit anong language. So, kapag nag-send si Java, papunta kay C++ or .NET na language, is kaya niya nang maintindihan. So, next is UDDI, Universal Description, Discovery, and Integration. UDDI is also known as the directories of the web services. This is where we could query and get information about web services. A directory which any publisher can publish their web services. A UDDI will be needed to know what WSDL to call. So, ang UDDI, ito yung parang lagayan ng mga web services. So, dito ka pwedeng kumuha ng mga web services. So, kung parang gusto mo ng web services sa sa ginagawa mong project is pupunta ka sa UDDI para maghanap. Ali dito nilalagay lahat ng mga developer yung mga web services na nagawa nila. So, SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol, a messaging protocol specification for exchanging structured information in the implementation of web services in computer networks. SOAP uses XML format to encode and decode different messages. So yung SOAP, ito yung parang daanan ng mga message na binabato ng web service at client. Next is SEI, Service Endpoint Interface. Translate language to be understood by the web services. Provides a way for your client application, irrespective of technology, to call the web services. So, ang SEI naman, so, para ito yung translator natin. Kung ang SOAP is yung daanan, ito yung translator. Yung magta-translate ng mga methods or arguments na binibigay ng web services sa client.
So good day everyone, my name is Mark Cedric M. Almeida and now I will be talking about SOAP Web Services 3, writing a web service client stub generation. So what does web service mean? A web service in the context of .NET is a component that resides on a web server and provides information that services other network application using standard web protocols such as HTTP and Simple Object Access Protocol or SOAP. So what does SOAP mean? Ang SOAP is an XML-based protocol for accessing web services over HTTP. It has some specification which could be used across all applications. So SOAP is also known as the Simple Object Access Protocol, but in later times was just shortened to SOAP version 1.2. GeoIP is a free web service that returns the counter information with a given IP address. So based on the video that I watch is wala na yung web service example niya doon na GeoIP code na XML na example niya doon. So naghanap ako sa Google na libre at walang bayad na example of WSDL that I nagagamitin ko dito sa code ko. Then this is how he write the code in Java application using Eclipse software. So first of all, open the Eclipse workplace, then create Java project, then name it in IP location finder. So after you click it IP location finder, click it finish, then yes, then IP location address create. So yan, so it create, then right click the CRS, then class, click the class doon. Then ang gawin niyo na po is yung name is same lang sa location. Name is location, then check it the public static void main string args. Then the package will be based on the video is org.koshik.javabrains or .koshik.javabrains. Then after that is finish. After you finish that, may lalabas po na ganito. Mayroon na siyang package, then public void static main string arg. So itong to do, dyan mo po ilalagay yung Java code mo, which is based sa video is if args means argument that length is not equals to 1, then system dot out dot print in you need to pass in one IP. Then else, then string IP address is equal to args 0, then stub dot get country, name, IP address. So yun. Then after that is ito na po yung kakalabasan niyan. After that, punta po kayo sa CMD, then make a directory name SCA, then CDSA, pupunta po siya sa folder na SCA, then import. Yung import nyo po dito is the URL na pinagkuhanan nyo na GUIP, which is ang pinagkuhanan ko nito is ito. Insert ko lang po itong URL na yan. Then after that is lalabas na po yung laman ng class niyan na get yung IP, yung context. Then to save it the Java, so import mo ulit, punta ka ulit dito, nasa folder ka na ginawa mo, then import .keep /slash then srs, then type mo ulit yung URL, then pag in-enter mo is lalabas naman itong Java. So that's all. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sander Unseris, and this is part 4 of our report, titling Writing a Web Service Client, Calling the Web Service. This topic will be discussed about how to locate a location via GeoIP locationing code. So what is GeoIP locationing? GeoIP refers to a method of locating a computer terminal's geographic location by identifying terminal's IP address. Through GeoIP can pinpoint a terminal's location to a city. It requires the use of a GeoIP database as well as understanding of APIs to implement correctly. Web Service Client. Web service provide a standard means of interoperating between different software applications. Running on a variety of platforms or frameworks, this section begins with a description of the major components and concept of a web service. What is what we call calling a web service? Web services are typically function calls made over a network using web technology to transmit the information. Often, the information that is transmitted is formatted as XML. A web service can be contrasted with a typical web request even though they both use web technology. So what I'm going to talk about is how to call a web server by IP location and check where it came from. So ang mangyayari dito, ah gagamitin natin yung dating code from the previous reporter. Then, i-check natin kung okay ba siya or readable. After nun, kung okay naman na siya, gagawa tayo ng bagong Java package for that particular data. Then, pag nakagawa na tayo ng Java package, ika-copy natin yung laman ng dating data at chinek natin dito. Ika-copy natin sa bagong gawa nating Java, what do I call that? Java package. After nun, pagka okay na yung pag na-copy and paste na, pagpo-proceed na sa code, ang gagamitin lang natin is yung GeoIP service.java and GeoIP service.code. So, yung GeoIP service, papangalanan natin yung variable na IP service is equal to new GeoIP service. After that code, yung GeoIP service soap na nandito is, ang variable name niya is GeoIP service soap is equal to IP service dot get GeoIP service soap. So yung ang ano nitong code na to, yung IP service kukuha siya ng instance para ma-access niya yung GeoIP service soap dito. And GeoIP, yung variable name niya is GeoIP is equal to GeoIP service soap dot get GeoIP or IP address. Then, yung GeoIP na nandito or nandito, lahat ng laman nito ay nandito, 'di ba? Then gagamitin mo yung GeoIP service soap para makakuha ng IP address para ma-locate mo yung location. So, ang kulang na lang is yung ipiprint. So, gagawa tayo ng systemout.println geoip.getCountryName. So, after makuha ng GeoIP service yung IP, mag-run siya and makukuha natin yung country name. Parang ganito. Yung 74.125.239.142 is nakalocated siya sa United States. Ito siya. 74 will locate the IP address to the country United States. The organization that owned this IP address is Google. Then the other example is this. 212.5.8.251.195. Yung IP address na to, pag niran mo, dadaling ka niya sa United Kingdom. Tapos ito siya, will locate IP address to country United Kingdom. The organization with owned this IP address is BBC. Ayun lang po.
Hi, good day. My name is Leonard Santos and I'm here to discuss on how to set up Java EE8 SDK. So the first step that you need in setting up Java is you need to have the Java SE development kit, which is also called Oracle. So in downloading this, you just need to go to the Oracle website and choose the Windows, or choose the link for the device that you are using. In my case, I'm using Windows 64-bit. That's why I choose this link. And then after downloading it, just install. Next, just click next, and then next. You don't need to change anything from this. And then after that, it's easy as that. You've installed the Oracle or the Java SE Development Kit 8 for 64-bit or for the device that you are using. And then after that, just go back to the website of Oracle and then download the Java EE Platform SDK 8U1. This is for the Java EE8 SDK. So just click the Java EE Platform SDK 8U1. After downloading that, it will give you, or it's actually a zip file. So after that, just open it and then extract it on the desired path that you want to install it. After that, just open bin. Right here, it's called bin, and then open the asadmin.bat. If you installed Oracle correctly, it will open this window here, which is for the admin or the commands that you will type here. That's all for setting up Java EE8. Thank you.
After downloading Java SDK and Glassfish files, we can now proceed on writing a web service Eclipse setup. First, click on Windows, Show View, then select Servers. Click on Windows, Show View, then select Servers. As you can see, Server tab will appear. Click on the link to create a new server. Click this link to create a new server. As you can see, you don't have Glassfish server yet. Actually, there are two ways to set up Glassfish server. First, on old version, you can just click download additional server adapters. You can click this, download additional server adapters. And on the latest version, the second method, you need to click on Help, install new software, and note, you can add a direct URL from Oracle to download the Glassfish setup. This URL is from Oracle. And you can just select Eclipse Glassfish Tools, then click Next. After downloading the files, press on I accept terms of the license agreement. You can select this radio button, I accept the terms of the license agreement. Then click Finish. And this window will appear. You can just click select all, then press trust selected. Just select all. Then press trust selected. And after that, Eclipse will require you to restart the application. After Eclipse have restarted, click again on the link below the server tab. Click this link to create a new server. And as you can see, we now have a Glassfish server. Click add, then the window below will appear. Click this add, and this window will appear. Add a name to your server, then select the directory of Glassfish and Java on your computer. On my case, I named it Glassfish for Test. Then click Finish. This window will appear and just click Finish. After that, Glassfish server should now appear on the server tab. As you can see, we now have a Glassfish for Test, but the server is stopped. To start the server, right-click on the server, then select Start, or simply click Ctrl-Alt-R to start the server. After clicking on Start, wait for it to load. It will take a few minutes. If the status of the server is started and synchronized, you can now check in the browser if it is running well. If the status is started and synchronized, you can just check the server if it is running well. To check, just type in the browser URL localhost /8080. And as you can see, your server is now running. Then, to test the server, we should now create a project. Right-click anywhere on the Project Explorer, then click on New, then select Project. Right-click anywhere in Project Explorer, then click New, then Project. Select Dynamic Web Project, then click Next. Select Dynamic Web Project, then click Next. This window will appear after clicking Next. This window will appear after clicking Next. Then just add a name for your project. In my case, I put TestSmart. Then click Next, then click Finish. TestSmart project should now appear on your Project Explorer. As you can see, we now have the TestSmart project. To create a new file, just right-click on the project, then select New File. Right-click on the project, New, then File. And this window will appear. Add a file name, then click on Finish. Add a file name, in my case, newfile.jsp, then click Finish. The new file should now appear on your TestSmart project. As you can see, we now have a new file named newfile.jsp. Then add some HTML code to test the file. Anything that is coded in HTML can run on this dynamic web project. Then after that, click on the file, then select Run As, then Run on Server. Click on the file, Run As, then Run on Server. This window will now appear and then click Finish. This window will appear and you just need to click Finish. And to check if the file and server is working fine, just type in the URL, the directory of the file. In my case, localhost /8080 /testmart / the file name, the new file.jsp. And as you can see, the file is working well and the server is also working. And that's all. Thank you.
In the previous report, creating a web service in the Eclipse and setting up the application TestSmart, and now for the continuation of the tutorial,
we now convert the simple Java class in the previous tutorial into a web service. Deploy it into the Glassfish and test it by submitting the SOAP request and to get the SOAP response. So the idea about this web application is to create a web service that return product information on the e-commerce application. So we created a web application. I created simple JSP file and also created a class called product catalog. And the product categories, the string books, music and movies that we needed to do now is make this into a web service. And now let's create a web service that convert product catalog into a web service. And the first step is to call the product catalog as a web service and annotating with the add web service. Just highlight the web service, then click the import web service ajax.jws. And now the class product catalog is now annotated as web service. And for the summarization, all we need to do is to have a class and annotate it with a web service. And for the code deploy, let's try to run. Just click test smart and click run. So we can see that the pick of the glass fish works at the background, just like here. So there's no root page, but if we run a new file.jsp, we're able to see the application is successfully loaded. Just click the meta inf, then click new file.jsp and run it. And now let's open the admin console of the Glassfish server. And the admin console is the local host. Just type localhost colon 4848, then press enter. So we can see the admin console. Go to the application link. Just click the application, then it will show us the application that we have been deployed. As you can see, the application called Test Smart that has been deployed, and it enabled, and you see the web services. So the application has been already deployed. You can click the Test Smart so you can see the details about the application. So you can see the web service, you can launch the web server, or you can view the endpoint. You can see the component of the product catalog. You can view the endpoint. Just click on it, and you can see here there are two links, the tester link and the visited link. This link, click, and you see this the Visa FR, the web services. We now just created a web services in just annotating the web service. This is the pretty much most complete web service. And you see the link the tester to view the tester page. Click the product categories, and the page send a SOAP request, and you can see this the SOAP response. And we also see the returns for the string movies, music, and books. And this is the very good creating and deploying web service, and also testing it using the Glassfish. And that's all. Thank you.
So now, we're done in the topic of SOAP Web Services number 7, writing a web service, code and deploy. In this slide, we will tackle about SOAP Web Services number 8, adding input argument. This class is going to make a call to the business service. Additional, in order to call the business service, call the product service, we need to make a new class. Making new class, the first step, you need to right click the SRC tab. Second, select new. Third, select the class. On the video, this is the pop-up window to create or configure new class. On the package, he added the word .business and on the name he uses the product service impl. After selecting the class in the previous slide, a new window will appear to configure your new class. IMPL means implement. Product service impl is only to make the logic of the code, while product catalog is only to make a call. After making the new class, we need to insert the method on the product service impl class. We need to import also the Java utilities. After inserting the method, we need to make a new instance to call the product service impl. The code is product service impl dot product service equals new product service impl open and close parenthesis and then semicolon. Insert a new method like ArrayList. After inserting the ArrayList method on the video, he added the constructor code. After that, he initialized the book list, music list, movie list to add the data in the category. Create a method called getProduct. After creating a method getProducts in product service impl, we need to go back in the product catalog to create a method which is to call the getProducts. To test the code that we made, we need to run it on the server. First, right-click on your project file. Second, select Run As. Third, select Run on Server. To verify, you need to type the link http://localhost 8080/testmart/newfile.jsp. Verifying is the way to see if your server is up. After the verification, you need to go in the admin console. The default link is http://localhost:4848. Click the application tab on the right side. You will see the deployed application, TestSmart. Click on it and there will be a new window appear. After clicking TestSmart, you need to scroll down and find the view endpoint. After clicking the view endpoint, you will need to select the tester link highlighted in yellow. After clicking the tester link, as we can see, there are two different server links. We will now need to select the default server link, which is the 8080. The new server appear after clicking the default server. On this page, as we can see, we input the list of product catalog string and it will show the data in a particular list. Selecting the Get Product Categories button to test it out. After selecting the Product Categories button, a new window will appear. Tapping the books in the text box and then select the Get Products button. After selecting the Get Products button, a new window appear, showing the product list inside the categories. The categories we input in the text box is books. So as we can see, the list of the products which is the title of the books. And on the right side is music. After the server testing, we need to insert the new method which is add method. Insert the add method in the product service impl.java to input the logic list. You need to insert the new method which is add method into the product catalog.java, the method inside the product service impl.java. Deploying the server again to test if the add method is successfully working. First, find the web content on the left area of the windows. Second, select the new file.jsp. Third, select Run As. Fourth, select Run on Server. If you notice, there are now three different methods. First is the get products. Second is the add product, which you will need to input on the first text box is the existing category. On the second text box is you need to input what product what you want to input. The third method is get product categories. The button which will list all the existing categories. To add product in the category, you need to select the first text box and input the category. Second text box is what you want to add the new product inside the category. When you decide to add the product, select add product button. After selecting the Add Product button, the new windows will appear. On this window, we can see that the product is successfully added to the category. We can see that the boolean is true. We know now that the product has been added to the category books. To see that, let's go back to the select the get products. After selecting the get product buttons, a new windows appear. As we can see now, the new list has been added in the product, which is the Java Brains.
So, good day. I will discuss all about the service first and the contract first web services. So, to start, I just want to ask if which one will you do first in writing new code? Do we write the implementation or the interface? Well, at first, we can say na depende ito sa tao na gumagawa nito. But personally, I think we should do the interface first. So, for example, when we are writing a calculator program, una natin may isip ay mag-write ng method. For example, add two numbers, then return a value. So, may isip natin is yung interface. There is a method na we think of two input arguments. So the first advantage of this one is the interface can be fixed on what I want on my interface, or kung ano mangyayari dito is magiging fixed lamang. So isa sa reason bakit fix ang interface ay para maging freely yung pag-change natin sa implementation, wherein wala nang mababago sa interface at client mo. So itong in-explain ko is connected to sa i-discuss ko sa web service. We have the web service implementation as implementation and the WSDL as interface sa kanina kong diniscuss. So the client referring to WSDL, this finds out what the web service is providing to make calls to the web service implementation. So the web service implementation access the WSDL. For example, find out what are the input arguments, what method name, or etc. So parang kanina lang, sinabi ko na we should lock or fix the WSDL or yung interface. So if you make changes in the web service implementation, is hindi madadamay yung client at yung WSDL. So for example, if we have many clients that are referring to WSDL and making call to web service, since we are not going to change the WSDL, and also the clients do not have to change, and we can freely change web service implementation without worrying what will happen to those two. So next slide is when we take a web service implementation class, we do the web service annotation. So what actually happen is yung WSDL ay na-generate after ng web service implementation. So kanina, instead na interface ang nauuna, ngayon naman ay yung implementation, wherein the WSDL is automatically generated. This could be a problem. For example, I just want to change my web service implementation, so I make a change in the method or code. Let's say for example, new naming convention that I want to follow. So what actually happen is yung WSDL ay mag-change since nagkaroon ng changes sa web service implementation. If I have many clients who are making call to WSDL, any changes that I will do will have an impact on the client. So we don't want any of that happen. So to fix down the WSDL, we want it to be locked or to be fixed. So there's a way to reverse the process. Now, instead of generating the WSDL from our Java class file, we can write the WSDL first. Gaya na sabi ko kanina na we should start with the interface before yung implementation. So we should write the WSDL first and give the class later. So essentially, I want to write the WSDL, then from the WSDL, we will generate the web service implementation. So the advantage of it is to write the interface first. We will write the contract first. We will write the WSDL first. So we should find ways on how we generate the web service implementation without having to modify the WSDL. in which this leads to what's traditionally two different ways in which we write the web service first. So the first way is called the service first, and the second way is contract first. Service first is essentially means you write the service first and then generate the WSDL. This is what we're doing all along, and the second approach is called contract first, in which we write the little first, then we write the service implementation. So the service first approach is ideal for web learning services, and that's what we've been using all along. Because we're learning web services, so we write the Java class first, then let the WSDL get generated automatically. But then the contract first is something we could use in real world production scenario, where we know that there are a lot of people who can use our web service, and you want to fix or lock down the WSDL, so you write the WSDL first, shared it with all consumer, then you write the service implementation. Afterwards, you can change the web service implementation without changing the WSDL. So yun lamang po, next reporter. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Jason Ojamentisa and I'm here to discuss the Simple Object Access Protocol or the SOAP and web services and understanding the WSDL. What is web services? A web service is any piece of software that makes itself available over the internet, and it uses standardized XML messaging system. XML is used to encode all communication to a web service. So what does WSDL mean? WSDL is an XML notation for describing a web service. A WSDL definition tells a client how to compose a web service request and describe the interface that is provided by the web service provider. To understand more about the WSDL, you need to understand the interface. So example, let's have an interface named calculator. This is a standard Java interface. This calculator is the name of the interface, and the public, which is the scope, or which is the WSDL, so that you want the user to use. This is the core of the interface. It provides the information of the interface. Each method, or this add is the method, has the name of the method, the input arguments, and the return type. So the WSDL contains of the method, input arguments, the A and B, and the return type, which is the int. So this is the web method. The code is hard to understand, so we need to remove this and focus only to this. So in order to remove these two methods, you can erase it, or you will put an exclude here. Exclude is a boolean. If you put exclude is equals to true, then it will exclude these two web method. So this is the result of excluding the two method. It lessen, or it exclude the other method, so we can understand it easily. This element is called port type, and the name is product catalog. There is an operation called get product categories. So this is what we'll see in the interface. The operation defines which taken input and output. To understand what is type here, let's go back to our interface. So this is simple add method myDataType class, passing into object myDataTypes, and this add accept these two objects and add them both and returns to object myDataTypes. So it's not add two numbers, but it's adding object of the data types. So what does this line says? This line says this is a add method taking two object, these two, and returning an object with the same type. So this web service explains the conflict flow. So we have service with port. Port defines binding, and the binding points to a port type which has a operation. Each operation has input and output. Input has a message, and the output has a message. Each message refers to types. Types defines its own section. And that's all. Thank you.